some onlookers stared in wonder at a plane landing in a parking lot.
The Germans used these planes to get in and out of short fields for observation and moving people around. This plane was flown in for the Aerospace Museum.
Workers are putting the finishing touches on World War II through Russian eyes. A look at how World War II was fought on the Eastern Front. You'll see hundreds of artifacts never before seen outside of Russia. Things such as Hitler's personal standard and the jacket in which he died. World War II through Russian eyes opens this weekend at the Municipal Gym in Balboa Park. It will be in San Diego until the 4th of July.
I want to welcome you all to the opening of World War II Through Russian Eyes, an exhibit of never-before-seen artifacts from the Central Armed Forces Museum archives in the center of Moscow. We're so pleased to be with you in this wonderfully hospitable city of San Diego. Kermit Weeks is a collector of vintage aircraft, but he also flies them all. He is a remarkable human being with a lot of vision. The question of vision is an issue before the country at all times because, as it was said very, very early on, as inscribed over the very stonework of the school I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, without vision the people perish. Without memory there is no soul, and without the ability to understand that when one shares with one's fellow citizen, we do not have a country. This young man has done extraordinary things in his life, and this is a great achievement, to have said yes at the right moment, to have been able to follow through to allow us to do our work, never relenting for this last remarkable year to make sure that all of these exhibit articles that were taken out for the first time to the West speak so loudly to each visitor, more so than any historian can ever do, about what happened then, to allow us to remember what must happen in the future. I'm very pleased to introduce Kermit Weeks, the chairman of this exhibit.
Thank you, Mark. I feel that the artifacts that you're about to see in this collection have probably had more impact on a worldwide basis and are probably the most important significant collection of artifacts to be displayed within this century. This exhibit is really for the veterans and the people, the sacrifices they made to allow myself to be put in a position of opportunity to be able to present this in a free and democratic environment, and I hope that you will all enjoy the exhibit. Please tell your friends, and I'd be interested in your impressions after you go through it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's really interesting how I came across this opportunity in Moscow with the Central Armed Forces Museum. There was a gentleman that contacted me that was actually working in the basement of the museum there in Moscow, and he was making these little miniature guns, and apparently they were like collector's items and people like to collect them, and he would find a lot of the actual guns in the museum that he could borrow, take downstairs, and you know, and then create these in miniature form, and they were like collectible items, and you know, they had all the moving parts and everything. Of course they couldn't shoot any bullets or anything, but there was a collector item. Collector's items, and anyway, at some point, I don't remember exactly how, but somehow he contacted me, and you know, was there any interest in, you know, helping sell these guns or blah blah blah. Anyway, so we ended up somehow, you know, seeing some of these guns, and then somehow this was right after the perestroika, you know, the Berlin Wall had come down, and you know, the Soviet Union, USSR, you know, had kind of been dissolved, and I think it was Gorbachev, and this perestroika thing was happening. And so what happened is the museum was contacted by the government and said, we ain't got any more money to give you guys, you're on your own. So they started figuring out, you know, how could we potentially make some money. So this guy that was doing the guns contacted me somehow, I don't remember exactly, and he said, you know, hey, we've got this exhibition stuff over here potentially, would there be any interest? Well, I had a gentleman working for me that spoke German, spoke Italian. He was very much a history guy. He used to work for the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. And basically, you know, I kind of got him involved, and somehow we ended up going over there to Moscow, and we met this Colonel Nikonov guy that was running the museum, and we got to see some of this stuff. And I mean, it was like, there was stuff that we ultimately had in the exhibition was everything out of Hitler's bunker. We had Stalin's coat, his hat, Stalin's revolver. We had the original battle plan for Berlin. We had this, you know, eagle that, you know, might have come down off the Reichstag. All sorts of, you know, souvenir type things, different guns, machine guns. I mean, I couldn't believe we had all this stuff. So, anyway, we came up with this deal. I decided to fund this, and we ended up doing it in 3 different locations. We opened in the Reagan Center, and we were the second exhibition ever. The first one was Lady Di's clothing and accessories or whatever, but we were the second one. And early on, we saw a potential problem from a marketing point of view that this could be perceived of in somehow glorifying Hitler and the Nazis. So one of the things we did very early on is we hired this vice chairman of the Holocaust Museum, Mark Talisman, and Mark basically you know, gave a little bit of credibility to the deal and came up with the name World War II Through Russian Eyes, so it wasn't a glorification of Hitler and the Nazis. And one of the things that we were very particular about when the exhibition was designed was nothing was done in a way to glorify Hitler or the Nazis. So anything that would have been like at the end of the war, the Russians had every standard with a flag on it of every German division, you know, that they had conquered, okay? And there was a ceremony at the end of the war, and part of the ceremony was they actually threw all of these standards down in Red Square in front of Lenin's tomb, okay? And so when we did that, it was the end of the exhibition. All of the standards that had been thrown at the end of the war at Lenin's tomb, we were in possession of as part of this exhibition, and they were at the end and they were all thrown down. So everything was, Hitler's standard was there, and I've got a picture with myself, you know, holding the gold braided swastika that went on the thing. It said Adolf Hitler on it, and it was an amazing amount of artifacts. We opened in the Reagan Center, and we were there for a few months, I think, and then we ended up moving to the Pyramid in Memphis, which was a big exposition thing, and then we finished up with this particular exhibition, which was in San Diego. And of course, you know, we sent the PO2 out there, which was the Polikarpov Dua, the Night Witch airplane. So that was in all the exhibitions, and then I had the opportunity to ship the Storch out to San Diego, and of course I landed in the parking lot of the San Diego Zoo. We folded the wings back, we took it down to the Aerospace Museum. So that was really a kind of a publicity stunt to gain awareness and stuff. And you know, while it was an amazing exhibition, it was an amazing bunch of artifacts, I mean, you know, in the long run, I lost my butt. I mean, there was some other things going on, but it was a great effort. I met a lot of great people. It was an amazing exhibition, but there just wasn't enough traffic, you know, that we could generate. So anyway, so let's go through some of the video here. And it was interesting too, when this opportunity came up, the people that had been working on Fantasy of Flight, Pack McBride and Associates in Miami, we were working on Fantasy of Flight, and this opportunity came up, and I thought, well, I mean, who else can I help get to design this exhibition? You know, so all this didn't happen just overnight, and I made the decision and I went back. I was talking to these people, and it turned out that one of the people that was the designer for Fantasy of Flight here, and some of the immersive environments, he was a Russian, and he came over and he was working for Pat McBride and Associates, and he had been a set designer in the Moscow theater. Okay, and he came up with some really great concepts for the people that went through the immersion environments here at Fantasy of Flight. And when they were throwing the German standards of all the divisions at Lenin's tomb, this guy, Alexander Kuznetsov, was sitting on his grandfather's shoulders during the ceremony. I mean, it's friggin' unbelievable how all this played in the name. We had lots of photos.
Always the lessons.
There's Colonel Nikonov there,
and then the
different things.
Very appropriate.
And this was just giving a little bit of a tour. I apologize that we did not have more video footage of this. And what you're going to see is pretty limited. We didn't film more. Of course, there's Joseph Stalin. In some respects, he was worse than Adolf Hitler. Yeah, so what would have happened was we would have, you know, had a lot of displays, photos. We had, you know, some of the artifacts would be in different cases, you know, with a little bit of information. We had some, you know, some videos going on of things happening. And like I said, it wasn't to glorify anything. It was just to show World War II through Russian eyes. I don't remember, like, these submarines in the I don't know if those were Russian or German, but there was a lot of information that was shared. I don't know if those are troops or people going along. It looks like troops to me. You know, different artifacts, and the motorcycle here, and the Russians. Well, it looks, of course, it's got a little bit of the German flair there, but like I said, anything we did with the swastikas on them were all laid down in a way that you know, they weren't displayed in any kind of a glorified manner. And there was actually later, I didn't see it, but Mark Talisman did, they had within their archives, and Mark, because Mark was Jewish and connected with the Holocaust Museum, they actually allowed him to hold a piece of Hitler's skull that they had in their archives they had gotten from the bunker. Because remember, the Russians took over Berlin. We were on the outskirts patenting stuff, and I guess we'd done a deal to let the Russians do it because they had suffered so much under the hands of Hitler. Our country never saw a bomb. Just lots of little, you know, artifacts that the Russians had. Some really amazing stuff. Got camo netting, you know, up over the top. Just kind of put you in the feels. Different artwork of the period. Reflecting the energies. It's kind of a cool little cap here that they've got. Shows a close-up. Looks like some, you know, medical type potential equipment. Looks like a chest set somebody might have carved out of hand. Hat. Again, a lot of the iron crosses, everything's laid down, nothing's laid in a vertical manner. And here's the PO2. which was transported out there. I didn't fly it out there. This airplane has no brakes and a tail skid. And that was the airplane the Noctex Center, the Night Witches flew, which were the Russian women pilots that hand-dropped bombs. And I think eventually they had bomb racks on the wings, but they dropped bombs on the Germans. That wasn't a tactical thing. They weren't trying to, you know, specifically kill people or blow up certain things. What they did was they were, it was more strategic, and it was basically to keep the Germans awake at night, you know, wondering what's happening, the bombs, you know, and not being able to sleep. So the next day when they were fighting the Russian women's fathers and sons and you know, brothers, that they had a better chance because the Germans were you know, not at their best and were tired. Just lots of little model tanks and stuff, and I don't know if these are the Russians. I don't think they were making plastic model tanks back there, so these were something that the Russians would have made that had significance to them. There's Stalin again. We have Stalin's coat, his hat. We have his revolver that he had. That's a picture of Lenin. Now, I'm not sure, I can't remember if these were actually Lenin's coats and things, but they probably were. But I do remember we had, of course, Lenin, I think, was gone by then. This, I believe, was Stalin's coat. His hat's in there somewhere, but I don't think we got a shot of it. This is the actual battle plan for Berlin, 1945, coming across, I assume maybe that's the Rhine, I'm not that familiar, but all of where the army was going to go, little towns that they were going to hit, or places that they were going to focus on, you know, from big sweeps in. I believe this is Berlin, and here's a shot, I think, of not only the Russians but the American troops as well, because at some point, you know, we would have connected with them over there. Different Russian medals, awards. We had machine guns. I mean, this is back when, I mean, you know, you try to import a machine gun today, man, no way in hell. You know, different Russian guns, different, probably some German guns. Yeah, these I think these were Russian puppets that they used to, you know, do little shows or something to probably put Hitler in his place. Now this here, this was stuff that came out of Hitler's bunker that they had got in Berlin. They cleaned it out, picture of him, you know, just different aspects that we're going to see some close-up shots here of. There's a globe with a deal. This little baton here, I believe this was Hermann Goering's, from my recollection, but I can't remember for sure. Of course, the swastika on the globe. This was a Messerschmitt. This was on Hitler's desk in the bunker. There's Hitler. Yeah, so this desk was out of the deal there. This violin was there. I think it was just he didn't play the violin, I don't think, but it had Hitler's head carved at the top of the deal. So I think it was just a souvenir or something. That was his hat. That might have been his little standard there. I can't remember. A cane, kind of a deal. This was Hitler's jacket. I couldn't believe we had all this stuff. This was an eagle that I understood came off the Reichstag. We'll look up and see if we can find that deal there. But it was at least an eagle that was out of something, you know. I understood it was from the Reichstag, which was, I guess, I have to look it up and check, but I think it was like a big Nazi headquarters. And of course, again, you see this is all laid down. This was all done with intent. A couple of bullet holes. So it's carved out of wood, I guess. Now this was the end of the exhibition. This was actually during the ceremony at the end of World War II. This was actually all of the different standards from the heads of the German divisions, and at the end of the war they did a ceremony in Red Square and they threw these down at the foot of Lenin's tomb, which then obviously Lenin was dead by then. So anyway, but all these things, so this is how we ended the exhibition. And this one here, this is Hitler's standard, and it actually said Adolf Hitler on it. We actually had that in the deal. Well, there's 3 different things here. Yeah, so here's Hitler's standard, and it would have had a swastika down there with gold braid. Yeah, so there says Adolf Hitler on it. I mean, what a freaking historic piece of stuff. That was the gold braid thing, and that's the freaking standard, Adolf Hitler, and this little piece would have hung down below that. And I've got pictures of Teresa and me holding it. That was amazing. This is the way we finished the exhibition.